Well, I know it really jumped out at me when I was rereading the assignment you were reading in Education for Life that I think at some point he says, they have to do things. They have to do things. They can't, they really have to use their bodies. So much happening in their bodies at that time, and all this energy is coming out, and you really have to channel it. And that year that I had the 4, it was great. Diva took them one morning a week, and basically one of the main things he did with them is just wear them out. I mean, he'd just run them. He'd run them and he'd work them, and he'd, just really getting that out. And it was so good for them to just have an outlet for that and a way to take that energy and move it in a positive direction. They are actually the ones that built the sandbox out there for the younger kids on the playground out there, and they enjoyed doing that. And then they just so enjoyed seeing the younger kids loving it so much. I mean, they could hardly wait to get in that thing when it was done. And every day after that, there were kids in the sandbox. And so that's the other thing is service. Service was a real important part of that year, showing them that they matter, they can make a difference in a positive way in their world and in their community and in their school. And they were such amazing leaders too. These guys were so good with the younger kids. They were just really exceptional, I think, all of them. They were all very different, but all of them had big hearts. And a lot of times, one of the things they really enjoyed was doing things for the younger kids, like putting on a little fair for them, or making things to leave them, or making them the sandbox, or just going out and playing with them and being the leaders and being the ones that they looked up to. And oftentimes that was all it took to really get them back focused again. If we were out on the playground at the same time the younger kids were, and we found that they really needed their own playground because their energy was so big that it was intimidating to some of the smaller kids. But all we really had to say was, remember where you are, remember you're being watched, and remember you're big and you can be scary to some of these little guys. And that really brought them right in. They were so good about that and channeling their energy into helping them. The other thing that I think was really helpful was just helping them expand themselves in different ways. And part of that is going places, field trips, just going, doing that. And so one of the things that I love to do, and every time I say to Usha, I've got an idea or I had a thought, she goes, oh no, where do you want to go now? Or sometimes just, oh no. Usually that means I got something up my sleeve. And one year, back to service. One of the things they like to do every year is we do a food drive for the Oregon Food Bank. And from the first year we started doing this is a project that's put on by the food bank to get schools involved. And they have what's called Project Second Wind. It happens in February. It's after the holidays. The food bank's depleted. And so they've got this. It's a competition between schools, basically. And so every school has their own category. So in elementary schools, we participate, and they see in this 2-week period how many pounds of food you can bring in. And they have different categories, and for I don't know how many years in a row, I think all but one that we've done it for 7 years, something like that. We not only took first place in most food per capita, but like 5 of those years we took most pounds collected, period. Our little school, competing with public schools of hundreds of kids, and we collected more food than they did. And it's because they get into it. They have a cause, they have a mission, they get into it. And all the parts get in there. We have the ones that are coming up with the ideas that are kind of in their head. Then they have the artists, the feeling ones that draw the posters and, that we put around or give out. And then they're the ones who will like to talk to people and will go door to door everywhere in the community or in their neighborhood to ask for the food. And then they have everybody gets involved in whatever way they want it. And some of them really like the boxing the food, and because we box it up and then we weigh it on our own scale to see how much we have, and we keep track of it all. And so, all those different tools get in there. And so at that point, somehow somebody got wind of us, this Character Education Partnership, and decided they wanted to give us an award. And they were going to be giving out these awards in Washington, D.C. So I decided we should go accept in person. We did. But it took a whole fall and summer, and actually I think we might have started in the spring even. No, I guess it was definitely summer and fall of car washes out here when the farmers market was out here. We'd charge for parking. We'd wash their car while we're there. And to this day, if you ask any of those boys, they'll say, I never want to wash another car. But it was great. They were out there and they were putting their energy out, and they were good and worn out when they were done. And so just giving them something to work toward, giving them a goal, giving them a focus. There was another, at one point I decided, well, they weren't really getting enough exercise, so I kind of tried to give them this challenge, and it sort of worked, but it sort of didn't actually work for a number of reasons. But the general idea was, I was trying to encourage health in them. And so the challenge was, okay, I'm going to give you health points. We decided to call them health points. So if they ate a fresh fruit or vegetable at school, they got a point for each fresh fruit or vegetable they ate. If they, every lap they ran around the block, they got a health point. And if they did certain things at home, if they were playing sports, like if they played an hour soccer or this, they got a certain number of points. And if they got to a certain number of points, then I was going to take them on a skiing trip, basically, kind of this, thing. And so they got going, and for a while it was really interesting to see which ones engaged in that, and then which ones didn't so much. It was interesting. They ended up finding a way to get the prize without actually doing the work. But they got a parent to agree to take them anyway, and then it was like, well, So, but anyway, they were going for a while, and they were still going. Some of them were kind of just into the fact that, they were doing it, and it was the physical child that was really into it. He was the one that, yeah, we're running, we're doing this is cool, this is great. And then, so they were kind of lagging on their points, and I remember there was one person who was one of the 4 boys was really lagging in his points, and I thought, okay, this is a Will child. So one day we pulled up to school out from being out somewhere, and I pulled into the parking lot and I said, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do laps, and whoever does the most laps, I'll double your points. And that Will child was out of the car and down the street before the other 2 even knew what hit. And it was really fun to see how it worked out, because then the physical child was, oh, yeah, this will be fun. We get to run again. And he wasn't in any hurry. He decided to stop at the bathroom on the way. And then the feeling child was, oh, good, he'll catch up. He was really happy that, oh, good, he's going to have a chance, because, he'd kind of gotten behind and didn't know how he was going to catch up. And so, I remember the 4th boy wasn't there that day, but I could guess what he would have done. He would have been right there with him, encouraging him, because he was a very feeling person too. So it was really fun to see how that manifested in them that way. So some of the other things, I want to make sure I get everything that I wrote down here. Challenges and field trips, and the service. And the other thing that I think is important, and I know it's mentioned, Karen mentioned it, and in the book it's also mentioned for more the feeling years, is inspirational people and really reading inspiring stories. But I think it's really great for the older kids too, and in maybe even a little more focused or serious way. And so one of the things we did is I had them read stories about people that we were trying to help. For example, one of the service projects we did is we would go down to the Portland Rescue Mission, which serves the homeless in our community, or in the Portland community, and we sorted donations for them, and that got kind of after a while. But the parent that was with them found that they'd say, okay, let's see how many cans we can see. Let's see if we can do this whole pallet of cans in 5 minutes or whatever. And of course that got them going then for a while. But then we read a book. We read a story, and it was a fictional story, but it was fairly realistic, and it was about a boy, a teenager their age, who becomes homeless at this point, and what happens to his father, and how he works through it. And he works through it in a real positive way, and it comes out that way. We also read stories that incorporated people. It's Esperanza Rising, I believe, was one of the things we read about, and then we looked at the life of Cesar Chavez after that, because he's a part of that story, and the farm workers and uniting them. And so, we used the literature, and we used the stories, and then we used what we were doing, and just tried to connect it all and have it really make sense to them. And then one of the other things I think is really important is to really give them some concrete strategies from someone who knows. And one of the things that we read also was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. Excellent book. I really recommend it. And they loved it. They just thought it was the greatest thing, especially the beginning. Hooked them right in. Even the one that was really a struggling reader did not like to read. I mean, would not read unless he absolutely had to. He got sucked into that book and he couldn't wait. The next morning he'd be coming in, did you read the next chapter? Guess what it says? And he'd be sharing it with them and everything else. And it's really nice because it's written by actually, it's Sean Covey. Yeah, it's Stephen Covey's son, and he wrote it as a young child, as a young man for other young men and women, and shares about his experiences. And these are all things that they could identify with because this was someone that was a peer to them.
I work with kids in the feeling years. In fact, much of our school here, essentially first grade through sixth grade, is incorporating primarily the feeling years. So from 6 years old up through 11 years old. When kids move into the feeling years, you don't forget what they've done in the previous 5 years of their life. You still reinforce those types of activities daily, multiple times a day, and then you just begin to build on those. And in your handouts, have they gotten these yet, or are they in their notebook? No, okay. So I'll just mention a few of these things which you have in written form. So, and again, he mentions these in the book. One thing that's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity during the feeling years is training the imagination. And there's a bazillion ways to do this. One is by guided visualizations, and one trick with those is to make them as non-specific as possible so that the person who's imagining doesn't feel constrained at any point to match their imagination to what you're saying. Any kinds of art, story writing, play, dramatic play, it's so popular. And also using, well, what if? What if this could happen? What if you could do this? What if you could choose? Music, movement, dance, drama, those are all wonderful ways to develop the imagination, but also to just learn to express feelings. Another area is in developing wholesome habits, and this again builds totally on the physical years, because in the physical years they start all those things about, you know, wash your hands and all those habits of body and mind that you want to then build on. And one of the things, just, you know, cleanliness, talking with the kids, and throughout these years you see them develop a lot of skills in that area. When they're younger, they come in, their nose is running, they may or may not wipe it with anything appropriate, or what I consider appropriate. If it's my sleeve, I don't consider that appropriate. But washing their hands and not just going in and going, you know, it's like, and you know, we've used music. A couple of years ago, we learned a song about wash your hands, you know, give the soap a spin. And if you sing that song and wash your hands during that time, then you've got really clean hands and you've gotten rid of your germs. Using manners, doing blessings for your food just to show gratitude, habitual things that they can develop during this time that carry them maybe throughout their life. And I think another really important habit to help them develop is the habit of high-mindedness, of looking for the good things in life. It's such a habit for many people to pick on other people's faults or their own, but helping them to look to the best in life, or when they're outside, using their eyes, what they see, to look for beauty everywhere, to listen for sounds that are pleasing, to in whatever their experience is as they're taking in sensory information, to learn to interpret it in a positive way. Or if they find something that they feel like is disgusting, is there something they can do about that? So it's kind of building them toward what will be an important element of their lives during the will years. Developing concentration. One way in which we do that is, you know, with the little tone bell that we were just using to gather everyone here, is to, we'll be sitting and play a few notes, but then we'll play one final note, and everybody's so still that they listen to see who can hear it the longest. And the way they show that is they'll have you have them maybe put up their finger or put their finger down when they cease to hear it anymore, with their eyes closed so they're not competing with each other. I also do that with the auto harp, which I was just playing during the stations. And what I'll play, maybe I'll play a chant or something, but then I'll come to the end and I'll just do one chord all the way across, usually a C. And again, we'll listen to see if we can hear it end. One activity, I don't know if we've talked about this one, I think we have, but maybe we haven't, is which Trina, kind of her family, her children came up with and introduced to me, was having one person lay on the floor and then putting rocks on their body, and they see how still they can stay so that no rocks fall off. And it helps them to gain some control with their body, but it's also learning to be still, learning to concentrate. Developing aspiration and devotion. There's so many ways to work with that. One way that we do, and some of you have had that experience, if not, we will be doing it at some point in here, is just blessing others, learning ways to share energy in that way. Learning to identify positive character traits and practice them. That actually is the topic of our conscious discipline this afternoon, encouragement, which is noticing, commenting on, reinforcing things we notice that are good. Also, falling into this category, and wonderful during this age, especially in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, are books about heroes. And that can be legends, it can be true stories about people who are currently living, historical figures, fictional characters. It doesn't really matter, but examples for them. And especially it's so good for them to learn that these people didn't spring into this lifetime with all those qualities already developed, because it gives them a sense then, how did this person become so good at what they did? And how can I become better at what I'm doing? Now, Usha was mentioning earlier about some things that you can do to bring feeling into academics, and I wanted to just give you 2 quick examples. And one of those, we were doing, of course we do math every day, and one thing I have noticed that I really appreciate in our little Saxon math lessons for 1st grade, they're starting to learn about dividing groups in half or thirds or whatever, and they'll have them like draw a dozen cupcakes, and then so-and-so's going to share these equally. Actually, they only share half a dozen with their brother and sister, so they draw 3 plates and then draw the cupcakes on the plates. But all their examples that they do in that way are all about sharing, and I really appreciate that. We were doing an ocean unit this fall, and so one day we were talking about how we do little math stories every day, and they draw a picture and write a number sentence about it. And so just for fun, I asked each one of them what animals they would like in a math story that I would write for them. So just as an example, how you can, even in a math story, you can have feelings. They love sea animals. So a sea otter and a sea lion were playing in the waves. 3 dolphins swam over and asked to join in the game. Of course, they were welcomed. How many sea mammals are playing together now? So just a very easy thing to do. Another quick one, and then I'll stop because I know there's lots more to hear about. When we do sorting and fractions, when I'm starting to introduce that, lots of times there's many ways to do things, but you know, we've got our little buddies here, our little puppies. And so we can have a fraction. It's like, what fraction of these little puppies have brown? Or which fraction of the puppies are spotted? Or which of them have eyebrows that you can see distinctly? Or which of them have fuzzy ears? Or which of them have long tails? Or, you know, so it's a really easy way to engage them, because of course there's like, well, can I hold it? And their heart is totally, well, you can see obviously, me, a feeling person, no. My little stuffies. Anyway, so there's just ways to incorporate feeling and to help them develop then their sense of calm feeling in all that they do.
Okay, so I have to switch from the will now. The will is my comfortable place to be. So one of the things that would be great for us to start out with in talking about the physical years would be if everyone were to put your things down and you want to stand up, and then some of you might not have the best knees, hips, joints, so you don't have to do this, but for those of you who are physically able, just go ahead and just try to stand without using your feet. What that would be like. And so in our world that we have, would this be a very easy way to live? Probably not. You can come back up to your feet. So in the stages of maturity, what we want to look at is when is it the best time to learn how to live within, how to develop those tools that are within us. If you have a natural inclination, if your tool is the intellect, if you don't take the time during the 0 to 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, to learn how your body interacts in the physical years, how to be in the physical years, how to recognize what you can do physically to help with your energy to change it, it would be like living in the world without your feet. So we have to build on that foundation. And one of the things that I love to do with my kids, the purpose for me at preschool really is for them to learn about themselves and to figure out that they're here right now in their bodies, and that this is their body, and this is where it starts and stops, and where someone else begins. So we do a lot of different things along those lines. But one of the things that we've been learning about recently in our staff training is just some of the energy things that you can do, and I incorporate those into my class. And so if everybody right now, and I don't think it's going to work well because I'm going to tap my chest. Is that going to be a problem, Bob? I want
Virtually.
All right, so everyone is going to do right here. You're going to actually tap your chest, and I want you to take a deep breath through your nose. So right here. Out through your mouth. We're going to do that again. One more time. Do you feel how you got cleared out? You're all clear. And then right here, some other energy points. You can either rub them. It's right underneath your collarbones there. You can rub or you can tap. And when we come in from outside, a lot of times if our energy, like Usha was talking about, it's not within our bodies. We're not in control of our energy. We do this to help get back in control. Or even this, if we're feeling if things are a little confusing, we do that and it clears out the room. Sometimes we do that if we're cold. We can do these energy points. There's a lot of things that you can do to help them learn what to do when they're not feeling well. And another thing that you can do is if everyone is up and about and moving, but you want them to get down to the ground, focus your energy up here. So everybody, hands in the air. All right. And we've been studying the water cycle recently. So let's have our fingers be raindrops. And our raindrops are going to fall to the ground very silently. Coming down. And then you can come all the way down until you're sitting and bring your hands down. There, the rain's off. So you can sit down, you can stay down. I just wanted you to experience kind of some of the things that Melissa and I do in our class. The foundation years is really all about your body and how you're learning about the world through your body. Okay, through your physical motion, you're learning to master movements. So the large motor skills, we do a lot of these kinds of things and a lot of obstacle courses that we build. We do all kinds of opportunities we do, where we can incorporate feeling people, we can incorporate the will people. The obstacle course would be maybe more of the will people, and you get to use the physical. So for feeling, though, we get to do farm animals. We get to do horses, and so everyone gets to be a horse, and we're going to gallop across the playground, or we're going to gallop through the room, or we're giraffes, and we're eating the leaves. There's lots and lots of things that you can do in the preschool years to be able to develop this. then you also want to make sure you're incorporating the senses, the 5 senses. So if you think about our sight, there's a lot you can do with color, and that's art. That's very easy to do, probably to come up with. But it's critical that you take the kids outside. They have to go outside because it's the natural light out there, not just the nature and all of that, but the natural light develops your retinas. It has so many more effects so we always go outside. Doesn't matter, parents have to dress their kids cold, wet, everything. Okay, so what did we cover? So we do a lot with taste as well. And I bring in different foods for them to try. We talk about the healthy foods that they bring in their lunches. And then I even had one child that he used to bring in, at the beginning of the school year, literally brought in lunches that contained lots of processed foods. And he thought his fruit was his fruit snacks. So we had talked about it. One of the kids said that they liked that, whatever that was. And I said, it's got a lot of sugar in it. It's a little like what candy would be like. And he said, it is? He didn't know. And I said, well, let me just read it. And so I took it. I said, this is what's in it. And I read it. And the first thing was high fructose corn syrup. And so he went home and he told his mom and dad that that wasn't healthy to take in his lunches. And so suddenly his lunches changed. And at that time, he was 4 years old. And he changed his own lunches. And so he became very aware of what he was eating and putting in his body. There's so many things that you can do during this age that if you incorporate your entire curriculum around thinking about the physical body, space, senses, then when you develop it, once you get to the feeling years and beyond, you know that if you're feeling down, if you're feeling fear, there are things you can do physically to change how you're feeling. And you can recognize, put words to it, all that. I don't know. That's how we live in preschool land.